Welcome to the Kendrick Loves to Brand podcast. We are here with a good friend of mine, former college blockmate of mine,
Yeah.
Crystal Gonzales. Welcome to the show, Crystal. How are you?
Hi. Nice to see you again, Kendrick.
Well, as I mentioned, Crystal and I go way, way back. That's 2001.
Yeah,
First year blockmate, and then of course, from there we went to different courses. Na by our third year. So, Christopher, for the benefit of people who don't know you yet, do you mind introducing yourself? What do you do
sure.
now?
Okay. Yeah, so currently it's my first time to have my own venture. But prior to this, I headed Southeast Asia for Canva. Canva is the first unicorn in Australia, so it's a design app. And before that, I also launched Honestbee in the Philippines, where we were the top country in Asia. We were over 60% of the total business.
Wow.
Unfortunately, yeah, that didn't go so well regionally. In spite of us doing well in the Philippines, I think it's both good and bad because I think Philippines was the only country that did really well compared to the 8 cities they were in. Um, Before I launched Honestbee, I also launched Viber in the
Mm.
Philippines, and then I also launched Viber in Southeast Asia. So I headed Southeast Asia. What was before Viber? Oh, before Viber was Lazada. So I was part of the launch team of Lazada way back in 2012 when it was still really a small startup. Like we had picnic tables and everything. My digital career, tech career, I guess like my first touch on digital was really Yahoo. So my first tech role was Yahoo. So I started as a strategy manager around 2010, and then I eventually got promoted to be the marketing head for Yahoo Philippines. There. Then I think from then on, it's always been tech already from 2010 till now. So 10 years of like tech. But I actually started my career talaga in telco. So right after college, not sure if you took the fifth year program, but in my fifth year
Mm.
program, you're required to work at the same
Yeah.
time and some hours while you're doing your thesis and your master's degree. And I was chosen to be part of the EPLDT intern. So they only got four. Um, and right after that, they absorbed me and they recommended me to work for Smart.
Mm.
So yeah, I was a product officer in the mobile advertising group. So that's really how I started my career.
So, from how you started, was tech part of your plan, like part of your career plan already, or is it something that you just sort of,
Evolve,
the opportunity just presented itself?
right? I think in the early days of the internet, I was really, really fascinated with it. So I remember a year before I got my job in Yahoo, and that time me and my family would frequent going to the US to visit relatives. And I was just fascinated with this whole Yahoo thing that I applied online um, the year before I got hired. So I thought when they called me up, it was because of the many, many applications I did a year before that. It turns out they never saw my profile online.
Oh,
There were
okay.
millions of applicants, but that's how much I wanted already to be in Yahoo, and it just eventually happened a year after.
So
Mm.
a year after, they were headhunting you. So it
Yeah.
wasn't it
So
wasn't because of
had
your
a mentor,
application.
eventually they
Wow.
interviewed me. But
Okay.
I really thought in my head it was because of the online. And then they told me, "Oh, we never like saw you online." So I guess you can say that I really wanted to be in that space because I was just a fan of it. I was a fan of the brand. I was a fan of that time it was more like news. I was a fan. All my information, I remember being in Smart and my homepage was Yahoo. So every
Mm.
day talaga, like before I start the day, I would read Yahoo News. So I guess because of that, like I was really
Yeah.
convinced like I have to be part of this.
So from there, you basically you've gone into tech, and then you just mentioned Lazada, Viber. I guess the most, not the most recent, but you medyo mas in the, I would say, the experience that you have with Honest Bee, I think, was really impactful because well, now parang it seems like everyone's shopping online and getting their groceries online, di ba, because of the situation now. But when Honestbee launched, this was something very, I would say, groundbreaking no, nung time na yun. So how did you get in? How did you get involved with with Honestbee?
So honestly, they were already contacting. I was still in Viber when they started contacting me, but my decision was also based on the fact that I was gonna give birth to my second child that time. And my
Mm,
role kasi in Viber was Southeast Asia based. So I had to travel, not just in Asia, but our HQ kasi was in Tel Aviv. So when
okay.
Honestbee said they wanted to get me, and then I did a few research and I realized it was nga like an online grocery. Um, and given that I was a new mom, I think my plan to join was very specific to me as a new mom, and it was gonna be a service I would need after I gave birth. So
Mm,
that's how it evolved. So I actually confirmed with them. I remember I was due to give birth near Christmas, and I actually gave birth to my son December 24. And I confirmed with Honestbee around the same day, if not
oh,
December 23, 24. Tapos, so 1 month after I gave birth, I was already back to work.
wow, okay.
Yeah. And then, um,
What year was this
2 months,
again?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 months after I gave birth, I was already in Singapore training. I even remember like obviously I needed I was still breastfeeding that time, so my first board meeting like I was still like pumping milk and everything, so pinagsabay ko siya. But I think like how I launched it in a way that was good timing that I was also a new mom. And it's maybe the reason why a lot of moms became a fan of Honestbee
Mhm.
because nga I was launching it as a new mom. So my thinking and prioritization was based on a mommy's perspective, which was very uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, not just moms, but like even ako, I was such a big fan of Honestbee. I really like. I really enjoyed using the service. It was just so convenient. Like
Right.
having having your groceries and even your laundry done, and then you can
Yeah.
schedule it. So parang it's out of the day to day na iniisip mo. You're worrying about having to
Very
find
true.
time to do your groceries, diba? So
Right.
what was the biggest impact that you felt Honestbee had in the market?
To be honest, since everything went by so quickly, parang and also because since I was juggling everything as a mom, parang it grew so fast, number one,
Mhm.
right? But it was only after I closed it, I think that I realized the large impact it had because of all the messages
Mm.
that we got. Some were personally sent to me. Some customers from here even wrote directly to the Singapore office, to the co-founders, to the CEO on how well honest we did here and how much it helped their lives. So I think the most touching for me in terms of impact, more than this whole popularity and the growth, the most touching for me was when we got messages from moms. Some of them had cancer and was going through chemo. And they were just talking about how, Honestbee helped them feel like they were still a mom. Because you know how mommies, you buy the groceries and you cook for them. So with Honestbee, parang they even if they couldn't do that physically, parang they still felt like they had a hand in being a mom. For me, that's the most impactful when you really see the service impact and change
Mhm.
people's lives in a positive way. For me, that's the most fulfilling, I guess. Yeah.
In your role with Honestbee, no, I mean, obviously you've had different experiences with Yahoo and Viber and Lazada, but coming into Honestbee and your role in Honestbee, starting it here, how did you approach that work? I mean, obviously at that time you were also you just recently gave birth, so coming into a new industry, how did you
Mm.
approach developing the market or educating the market into this kind of service?
Um, I guess this is something I also learned way back in college, right? How the importance of doing market study,
Hmm.
and getting to know the market very well, getting to know like the landscape. That time it was very different, because people were not used to doing groceries yet. So the insights I got like when we did the market study was they didn't understand the service. Like the comments we got, and when I went physically to some of the survey interviews, a lot of them said parang they wouldn't want to use the service because they want to be the one to choose the fruit, the fresh
Yeah.
item.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. So I used a lot of the learnings and insights and comments on even how I planned the marketing and the strategy. So I made sure that in our marketing comms, in all our messaging, I was ahead in telling them that it's safe, that we trained our shoppers. So a lot of the part of what I had to do was educating the users on what the service was and the benefits. So that's one. So important is really the market study and like planning strategy based on that, on the information and like insights. The other part is really yung clear messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something another thing I learned in Viber, because when I was launching Viber naman, that time people were used to SMS and chat. So when I told them
Yes.
free chat, free call, and nakalagay, and laki-laki sa materials ko nakalagay, free chat, free call, the first question in our social media, magkano? Or is it may bayad ba? Talagang you really have to educate the market and have very clear messaging. Um, in Honestbee though, we didn't focus so much on the functional because nga people are not used to it. I
Mm-hmm.
focused more on the emotional. So exactly what you said in terms of example, parang with Honestbee, you just feel like you save time,
Mm.
so you can do other things. So our actually first comms for honesty in the beginning was about um saving time and being able to spend time for the things that matter. And we had like a family visual. So I didn't even sell grocery or what. What we sold was actually time and
Yeah.
saving you time and quality, giving you better quality time. That's how, like from what I remember, that's how we initially rolled out Honestly. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the level of service that you get from the shoppers. Kasi I remember, parang magiging textmate mo yung shoppers kasi they'll tell you, this
Yeah,
item is not available, and ito yung recommendation niya. So you do feel like it's almost as if you're also there, di ba, shopping. So,
true. And
uh,
it's like someone you trust. So I think the experience was also like that because we really spent time with training our people. So more than the on top of the technical things we had to teach them, and we even flew in, parang we had these, if there's wine connoisseurs, I call them grocery connoisseurs. Like literally, they're like walking encyclopedias on how to choose the meat properly. Like, I've
mm,
been doing groceries for so long, like because I had that time I had two kids na nga. But I didn't know a lot of the things they taught us, like even how to choose the right fish and meat. So it's really training that they go through, and there's even an like almost like an exam that they need to pass to, like an on the job training that they need to go through, because they also need to not just have accuracy and quality but speed.
mhm. Nice. So, coming from, I mean, how Honestbee was performing here, and you mentioned Honestbee was number one in the whole of, in their whole system, no? What happened? What went wrong? What happened to the whole, to the whole
System.
company? Uh,
To be honest, it came as a surprise as well to us. So we weren't made aware that they were having financial trouble. Um, and for me, that was my main reason for leaving. It wasn't just because they had financial trouble, but for me, what bothered me more was that they lied about it, and especially since we were called Honestbee.
yeah,
Because
very
I think
ironic.
if they disclosed it to me, at least even just to me earlier, there were so many interested investors in Honestbee Philippines. So many, pretty much all conglomerates wanted to invest in Honestbee even a year before that happened. So parang I really felt so, parang sayang naman because, my team worked so hard to do that. But at the same time, I wasn't willing to sacrifice my beliefs and values. Lalo na like, you're Chinese also, diba? So I grew up with my dad's Chinese. And like, as a young kid, up to this day, I carried it with me. Bawal talaga magkautang and magpautang. That's the rule. So I lived my life like that. So when parang I was very careful with that throughout, my career lalo na, like credibility and all these things. So, um, to be honest, what happened was a complete shock. I had to find out from the media or from other from another country, in fact. I think it started happening in Taiwan. They started
Mm.
not paying the restaurants there, and it was in the news. Um, and it was very surprising also because they were the time I had to close it. They were even asking us to look for big land areas. They said they wanted to bring in the Honestbee by Habitat by Honestbee, like that. They built this big grocery in Singapore that's like robotic grocery. They were planning to build that here as well. So there was not even a warning. They just
Mm.
stopped funding and transferring money to us, which, as just an extension of Singapore and being just 2 years, like just like most startups, we still needed funding, right? So even if we were doing well here, we weren't self-sufficient yet. So I had to make the personal decision to really just I told them like I need to close the operations first to save us from further losses or risk, right? And I told them like if you do settle the funding issue, then we can always reopen, but they never
Mm.
did. So I was glad that I trusted my gut feel and closed it immediately versus because the other countries also actually didn't close. They closed maybe many months after I
Oh,
did. It was the first country that closed, and we never opened because they also never really resolved the funding issue.
right. Yeah,
Hmm.
I remember that time, and feeling very awkward nga for you as a friend. Like there were so many rumors coming out na there's some problems with the head office in Singapore, and then you were put in a tough situation of having to answer all these
Yeah,
rumors without a
actually, it was
clear
more
ano, 'di ba?
difficult. Yeah, because I couldn't answer.
Yeah,
I couldn't like I what I'm telling you now, I couldn't say that like a year ago.
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't. I mean, now it's okay because like there's a criminal case against the CEO. It's all over the news. It's already publicly released that they filed criminal case. It's publicly released that they owe $200 million. I didn't know any of those things. I had to read that from Tech in Asia. So all the actually there was never an official honest B
Statement or
statement like or even nobody ever told me or explained to me that that was going on there that bad. I just had to think of like on a country level, but at the same time, yeah, I couldn't disclose or say anything, and it was yeah, it was a very difficult situation because obviously since I was heading it here and I was the only one who closed, I had to take the hit. But to be honest, that time I didn't think about it that way. The only thing I cared about was for my people to have secured jobs. That was the only thing I could think of. I wanted my people to have a job that could sustain them. I didn't really care about like a lot of the other things anymore. Yeah.
okay. So let's move on to happier news, which is also why we're talking today. You're launching your new venture. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so I think like I mean, I always have this belief from Steve Jobs that like you can only connect the dots backwards. And this is a perfect example of that. Obviously a year ago, it was very difficult. Although I did have an amazing job that offered to me immediately with Canva. There was always that like sort of unfinished business
Mhm.
and yeah, sort of like unfinished business, and like there's this void, big void that all of us felt, not just as an honest B team. So all of us in the honest B leadership, had that like unfinished business that we felt, and also the team was so good together. We were really like a family as a team. But more than that, it was also as a customer. So all of us as customers and a lot of my friends and all of that, there was everybody just felt this like void. I'm sure you felt it, your wife
Yes,
felt
for
it.
sure.
And there I gave it a year, like I waited and I thought like because there were other like ideas before, and like I wasn't sure yet because I also wasn't sure if Honestbee was going back, and they did also try to talk to me when there was a new management and trying to bring it back, but I just couldn't resolve the fact that like they still owed money. So I just really thought like it was better to have a clean slate. and fill that void and gap that was just there. And so Kevin Tan, who in the Mega World group, we've known each other for some time, and um I think we also supported each other. Like, even they supported me also when I launched Viber and all this. He was also going through like some digitization, and he had some digital investments. He also had a lot of ideas he wanted to do. So pretty much we got together and decided to just like build this new venture. We started talking maybe late last year, but timely enough, like something like this happened, and we just pretty much was we were able to get in the middle of it, and try to fill this big void of now, like, people needing to have a reliable delivery service.
Mhm.
So this is where Pick.A.Roo.com was born. Essentially, a big part of what we're trying to do is about nation building. So one of the things I'm proud of, if you ask me about Honestbee, is that we were able to provide economic opportunities. Like, we had so many shoppers and riders, and we were able to give jobs to shoppers that normally they were just stay at home
Mm.
moms. So they didn't have a job. So a lot of them didn't have an education. They also couldn't deliver, and they didn't know how to operate a motorcycle. So that kind of opportunity, we want to bring that back. So in terms of economic opportunities, the other is being able to empower even SMEs and even brands, because all brands right now, no matter how big or small, everyone's impacted.
Yep.
So being able to empower these brands, big and small, to be in a single platform. But given our learnings with Honestbee, I think it's very important in terms of curation. That's something I think that our customers really enjoyed, the
Mhm.
fact that everything was organized and well curated. So we're keeping that premise on curation. The other parts to it would be being able to fulfill the need of more mid to premium users, and pretty much busy people, because the service level you expect when you're busy, whether you're a mom, you're a stay-at-home dad, now all of us are work from home or homeschooling, this busy life just became more aggravated. So we want to create a platform that will make your life, new normal life, better. So yon, fulfilling that premium service, reliable service, and curated options. And then the last part would be, we just want to be ahead of this new normal, like everybody's kind of looking at this as like a temporary thing. But for PickARoo, we're looking at like making sure that this new normal is like a good experience for
Mm.
everybody. Whether we help provide jobs in this space, empower our partners through technology, at the same time make people's lives more convenient. That's really like the premise of PickARoo.
Nice. Okay. First of all, I love the name. So kudos to whoever thought of the name. That's a beautiful brand name. I like the name. Secondly, yeah, actually, when you just mentioned it now, how the curation that Honestbee had before, that was really one of the things that I think really appealed. That really appeals, about Honestbee. The fact that that whatever you're looking at, it's been, sort of handpicked by your team, that it's good quality, good
Exactly.
products.
Yeah.
So I guess the one of the questions people will have is how similar and how different will
Mm, right.
Pick'A.Roo be to what Honestbee was before?
Right. So, something very different with PickARoo, we're the first premium all-in-one and on-demand lifestyle app. So, we're
Mm,
not a delivery app, just a delivery app like a logistics app. We're also not a food or grocery app. So it's super
mhm,
different from even Honestbee. So we're putting in pretty much our identified categories already outside food and grocery. So as much as we also have the top brands for supermarkets and some food brands, we really expanded the category for this new normal. So parang our plan is to redefine essential. Kasi before, essentials mean mostly grocery yung impression eh. Tapos
yeah.
parang ngayon naging essential is syempre food. But now if you ask, and I've done this like the past like month, everybody I talk to, we ask like before the meeting, like, what are the items or brands or categories that you wish was on demand? And I promise you they don't say grocery. Some of them may mention their favorite restaurants na namimiss nila, but more often than not, we got things like mga home fitness or
Mm.
other things. So my learning there is that essential now is being redefined. There's also, as much as there's new normal, there's also now new essentials, and that's what PickARoo is gonna be all about. Mm.
So when you say it's not just a delivery app, is it going to be some sort of like a concierge service now when people need something, they go to Pick.A.Roo and Pick.A.Roo will.
Yes. So this is also why it's powerful to have the partnership with MegaWorld. So think of us really as like your virtual butler. But how we put it is we curate already the brands, and you can see it in a beautiful menu already of the options. Something we did particularly even in Honestbee was we didn't even put all the menus in the brand. So we just selected like the top
Mhm.
items there. So that's also part of the curation that we do. But at the same time, we want to give people the option. Probably not in the first version of it, but in the next versions as well, where you could really put like specific items that you would need. And this is what the website is for right now, the pickaroo.com, where as early as now, I already want our users, our target market, to nominate their
Mm.
favorite suppliers, not just brands, but even suppliers, diba? So that this is equal opportunity for, like a major brand to be able to service the profile of our users. Because what's going on right now with even me and my husband is that I have a different supplier for matcha tea. I have a different supplier in Instagram for my decaf coffee. My husband has a different supplier for the yoga mat and everything. Parang if I add it all up, we're talking to what, 10 to 15
Yes,
different people. Like now I just
exactly.
ordered my Manuka honey, which used to be an Honestbee as well. Um, all of that, I don't want to go through like talking to different people. I'm putting all of that already in PickARoo. And like I learned this before. It's like ideas, like people can always share and learn ideas, but like how you execute it
Hmm.
and how you curate things, no one can copy that, because curation and selection, that's very personal
Yeah,
and
it's very subjective. Yeah, correct.
so even if I tell you to this now, and maybe somebody from, it doesn't matter where, right? Like Lazada hears it, or even Grab copies it, since that's what they're a master of, like replicating or copying previous ideas. It wouldn't really matter, because unless they go inside my people's brains or the experts in the team, 'di ba? Parang wala. And I've proven this in this whole year, because if it was so easy to copy Honestbee and
Yes.
how we made it. And in fact, just to share with you, my team even shared how we did things in Manila to other countries. They couldn't copy it because I also couldn't teach it. They asked like, well, what are the things you did in the Philippines? Because the only thing they provide in Singapore was the obviously the funding and the
Mhm.
technology. That's it. All the everything else, how you partner, who you partnered with, even the marketing, they just gave us the logo. They never even gave like a tagline or anything. So 'di ba, parang if it was so easy to do, and everyone, like, I mean, how many people used us? Like over a million, right? So, if it was so easy to copy, then how come in the whole year, in the whole Asia,
Yep.
no one's even really come up with anything close? I mean, Grab and Panda Mart, they're doing grocery, but I look at it, it's not even anywhere close to
Yes,
to
agreed.
like I wouldn't use it as a mom, right? It's like, yeah, it's just not an experience that I would go for, especially because dealing with fresh items and groceries, especially mommy needs. I think I'm very specific with that. Mommy needs. It's just a different ball game.
Yes,
Yun.
100% agree. In terms of the current brands not being able to replicate, and it's actually kind of disappointing in a way as a consumer, diba? Kasi like Honestbee shut down, over a year ago na. It's been a while, diba? And there's been an opportunity for these other players to come in and take what worked for Honestbee and sort of apply it. And at least with this situation now, I mean, I've tried using the apps, to be fair. um, it's just a different level of, I guess, the user experience, as you mentioned, it's just a lot harder. Not to mention, well, obviously now it's a crazy time, so the delivery schedules are pretty much non-existent,
Um,
diba?
yeah,
Um, but
it's like
actually,
not
I wanted to I wanted to touch on this aspect of people. Now, you mentioned your people. Um, how many people do you have right now for Pick.A.Roo?
um in terms of obviously we had to fulfill the riders first because that's
Mm.
important. So I think we already have like 500 plus delivery people.
Wow.
Most of them obviously were the ones we trained before. We've talked to a bunch of restaurant owners or business owners that also want to provide jobs to their staff, and we're willing to take that on. In terms of the team, I pretty much have a complete team in terms of the core team. So all my heads are with me. So my ops head, who also started Honestbee, my business dev, so my expansion and all of that. So all the key people are there. By June, we're most likely gonna be like 70 plus or so. In Honestbee, we were 200
Mhm.
in the office, and then for delivery people, obviously that's like
Yeah.
thousands. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's very good news to hear, no? Especially the amount of riders, because I think that's one of the things that people are complaining about now. It's so hard to get deliveries scheduled,
Right.
especially at a time like this. Na you know you really can't. Wala ka ibang option, eh, 'di ba? You're just waiting. So you mentioned also na this is going to launch officially, or soft launch officially.
Podcast will be in mid-June,
Mm.
and then officially, most likely, definitely July.
All right, that's very exciting news to hear.
Yeah. At the
uh,
latest in July. So we'll do soft launch if we're all happy with the service levels, and because you know how we do our service, then we can open it up sooner. But definitely we're not gonna open it until it's the level that we all want it to be.
nice. All right. So as a leader of a company, Crystal, what would you say is your biggest strength, or what distinguishes you from other CEOs?
Hmm. I think in terms of main, I wouldn't say I'm really any different. But first of all, I don't pretend I'm the best one in the group. I think that's one. In fact, I think my learning in something in Honestbee, I was actually the most insecure in the group, to be honest, because our CEO or all my co-GMs, actually, they were mostly Harvard graduates. I was actually the only one that wasn't even educated abroad. So I wouldn't say it's a strength, but my belief is that me feeling like the underdog, it made me feel like I had to work harder.
Mm,
Um, so I think I think humility number one is important. Just like looking back, right? Like same thing with Viber. I was the first employee outside Israel, and I guess I just felt like I had to prove myself. Like I was working with a lot of foreigners. I wanted to make like Philippines like a number one country of Viber. Like I was competitive that way. And it became one of the top countries. So it's really more like um I compete with myself. Like I always try to make sure, like when I was launching Viber, or Honestbee, I was so pressured because Viber became so big. So I was thinking like, oh gosh, like how do I even match up? And then so with Honestbee, I just tried to do a really good job in making sure it became as big as like a Viber, and then it did. So it's really more, I guess, like the other important thing for me is I don't accept a job unless I really believe in the product or the company.
mm,
I think that's something very different about me. Not just as a leader, but like as an individual. And then as a leader, I also make sure I get people that are very passionate and dedicated, because my belief is if you don't believe in this and you wouldn't even be willing to use it yourself or recommend it to your family and friends, like go work for a company where you're going to be so proud and happy about it. So I think those are like some things that I'm very consistent with. Yeah.
correct. How do you deal with failure, or how do you deal with setbacks or adversities?
Huh. Um, Here's the thing. Like, I think throughout my working life, or even not just work life, but even I think when I was younger, um, like the way I dealt with issues was like it's like you fall down, you get back up again, like almost immediately, right? And that's how I've lived my life for the past over 30 years. It's like, okay, I'll cry a little bit or like, like feel a little sad, but I would normally always snap back out, like, and just be okay. Um, but I think like later in life, I realized that you need to process, you need to learn to process things, especially as you get older, because your sort of like your capacity and tolerance for things like mentally and emotionally, it's different when you're in your 20s versus in your 30s because you've experienced more difficult things and issues. And I had to learn this the hard way last year, not just because of Honestbee, more likely, but because Honestbee happened. Like eventually I feel like I had to go through like difficulties in a different level after Honesty because it started to really affect me physically and emotionally and mentally. So interestingly enough, my dad's actually a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suffered from my first panic attack last year, maybe 2 weeks after what happened with Honesty. And I realized it's because like I just didn't talk about it and process it. I just like went along, moved on, helped a bunch of my people get jobs. I moved on to my next company. I just tried to, like be okay, but I wasn't okay. So eventually, like it took a toll on me. At the same time, like I think physically, it also had an effect on me. So um, I think how I dealt with adversities is so different. Normally, I would shrug it off, just learn.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, learning from it is a big part of it. But I think like if you really want to learn from something and be stronger from a difficulty, number one, you have to not just accept it, but really take time to process it. um because any sort of difficulty, it has an impact on you, on your mind, on your health, both physically and mentally. And if you don't process that, it could pile up, and it's sort of like a vase that's been dropped a bunch of times, and you can't expect it to just be okay. So I guess like for difficulties, yeah, that's very very important, and I had to learn that like later, a lot later in life.
Okay. How do you ever experience self doubt?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's why I was really affected with what happened with Honestbee, because more than anyone, I blamed myself
Mm-hmm.
because I was the leader here and I was accountable for everything here. Even if I wasn't in control of the funding in Singapore, I couldn't separate the success and the positive things from the mishaps and the closure and the things that happen here. So whenever something happens or whenever there's a challenge, like even small or big, like especially in a company, it's always me that I look first. Like what could I have done better? There. So it's really more like I always normally like have a lot of self-awareness and self-realizations. Yeah, and I think that's very important. And then being able to just like learn from things, be stronger from it is like a very important part.
I think that's what you just said. I think is the mark of a great leader, like being accountable for both the success and the
Right.
challenges. No? Because it can't just be all the good things lang, diba? As you said, even things that were honestly out of your control. It's good to hear that as a leader you took that on still, and you took responsibility at least, and you were accountable to your team. Even if it
Right.
it really wasn't. You
Yeah, for
know.
me it was really that because I felt like my like all those 200 people,
Mhm.
I got them on board. I mean, it couldn't have been me personally because I allow my team to hire as well. But still, it was like I was the captain of the ship,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why my number one instinct when that was happening was to help them get jobs somewhere else. So that was the first like instinct. But obviously I couldn't separate like the obviously I've also read a few things online and all this. So yeah.
In your career, like, who do you look up to? Is there a particular? Do you have a
Mm,
mentor, or somebody that you idolize?
right. I guess like a lot, but in bits and pieces. So like for example, I love a lot of things that Jack I learned from Jack Ma and his like talks. Um I learned a lot about like working hard and like Jack Ma also started from scratch and things like this. So those things to me are very inspiring. Steve Jobs as well, a lot of his learnings, a lot of his sharings, how he thinks about being creative and thinking out of the box. I think those are super inspirational to me. And even Jeff Bezos and his book,
Of
right?
course.
So
Yeah.
really learning like a lot of these things from these people that really, were able to do the things they love and make it very successful. For me, it's super inspiring. Um, but I guess on a personal level, I guess like somebody I really admire is my dad because like he's a doctor, but I admire how family oriented he is. Like he's never not answered a phone call. And
Oh.
I don't even know how he did it because he's a doctor and obviously there's real emergencies. But in my whole lifetime, he's just always been there. Like literally like there. Even me now as a mom, like he's even there now for even my two kids. Like the moment they get sick, like he's there, like he's always available. So that for me is truly admirable. And I think that's at the end of the day, like especially after you have kids, right? Like career and all these things, it's a plus in life, but
Mhm.
it's really more like family is just the number one thing for me.
Okay. Speaking of family and speaking of the situation that we're in right now, how do you stay productive now that you're working from home?
Actually, interestingly enough, I'm super productive because there's no traffic. So the time I used to have before, like let's say around 2 hours on traffic, now it's spent on even being healthy, like doing productive things, spending more time with my kids. So I'm really a lot more productive now. One thing I did now in ECQ that I didn't even get to do before was working out. Now I
Mm.
work out if not at least once a day, twice a day even. And it's because I save time na from the commute or the traffic. I've put that into to working out instead. I thought that was very productive. The other is reading, going back to reading, and even meditating.
Mm.
I didn't have time for that honestly, like before, because you'd have to get ready for work at what, like an hour before, maybe two if you have to commute past. So that
Yeah.
goes there. And then you get home. Normally, I don't even make it for dinner. So I have to eat like something quick, like when I leave work. So now I get to eat properly,
Mm.
slowly. I get to work out. I even now do morning sun every morning. I have at least like 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight, which I realized in my 30 plus years, especially the 15 plus years I've been working, I never got to do.
So it's a nice. I think it's a nice break now from how hectic
I
things
really
were
think.
before.
And if you use it like more and try to use the situation on like challenging yourself, like how do I change me? Because you can't change the situation. No, none of us can really do much other than do certain like things to help out, like help frontliners or help like hear technology and think creatively. The only thing you really have control of is yourself.
Mhm.
So doing things that actually you have control of. Like if you live in apartment, then I don't know, like Marie Kondo your apartment. If you live in a home, then there's more cleaning to do and editing to do. If you have a family, then there now suddenly now even like my kids are being creative because they're always home. So now they're suddenly also being trying to be productive themselves. So it's really I think it is a good opportunity for all of us to look within again. And I think what I appreciate about the situation is a lot of the noise is gone.
Mm,
I just realized how much noise was there, especially being out there and having so much going on. Everything from traffic to seeing too many people, talking to too many people, thinking and worrying about little things like what do I wear, what do I put. All these unnecessary things are gone and we're all stripped to the basics, which I think is actually healthy.
yeah, that's correct. Speaking of meditation, what type of meditation do you do?
So normally in the morning, I normally do yoga. And then right after the yoga, I meditate for at least like 5 minutes. And I started doing that when I mentioned I had started having my panic attacks a year ago. And that's one of the things that helped me. Because obviously like normally when people get panic attacks, they're going through something. They're going through something, there's a trigger. And I realized a lot of it was because of all the noise that goes through your head.
Mhm.
So yeah, I started doing this meditation. I think I learned it in Spotify or something in the beginning. So pretty much you just close your eyes, and then one of the things I like to do is like do a body scan. So
Mm,
you start, it doesn't matter where you start, right? Me personally, I try to start with my head, and I try to like, with my eyes closed, like visually, like try to release like thoughts, or like it's sort of like rebooting your computer. So
yeah.
that's what I try to do. And it's also good self-awareness on like sometimes I realize, oh, my ankle's painful pala, like because when you're busy, especially when you're on the go, you don't really realize it. There, so it's really just looking within also, and being it's sort of like a mental exercise also for me. So I practice going in and out of my thoughts, like also practicing to be present, especially because I
Mhm.
think when you get older and you get busy, diba, you're always on the go, and especially with technology, we're just always on in a
Yep.
way.
Yep.
So I think it's very, very important to have that, like just take a break, not think of anything, not thinking or not doing anything. I realized was as I got older, more difficult to do versus when you were in high school and there were no iPads and phones, diba? You just
Yes.
have your Nokia that, like you couldn't really do much with it. So, yon, I wanted to go back to that.
Nice. We're heading towards the latter part of the show now. There's three questions that I always ask each guest. It all pertains to legacy. So the first of the three questions is: knowing everything you know now and everything you've experienced over the past few years, if you were to go back in time to say when you first started working, or maybe let's go back to the time when Yahoo first called you.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, and then you had, let's say, a minute lang to talk to the younger Crystal back then. What would you say to yourself?
Oh wow. What a timely time. There's a lot because Yahoo was a time when I think I was starting to grow up pa lang. Um and that was also one of my biggest learnings. So one of the things I'll tell her is um believe in yourself more. I think I grew up really being very, very insecure, to be honest. I've always been super insecure, whether even in college I was insecure because I didn't get in the schools that a lot of my family like went to, like UP. A lot of my dad's from UP, a lot of uh my family's from UP, things like this. Like I was so insecure about so many things. Um And later in life, you realize that the only person that you need is you to believe in you. I spent so much of my energy and time looking outwards and getting the approval or praise of someone else, whether it was my boss, whether it was my friends, whether it was getting a few like social media likes, which now is like to me completely a waste of time and are almost irrelevant. Like I don't even I realized I didn't even post anything in Instagram in a year. Literally. My last post was my birthday. My second post was my next birthday. So stuff like that. The other thing is don't smoke. I was smoking since college. I think I stopped smoking 2013. I would
Mm,
tell my old self like, oh, don't waste your health. So that's the other part of it, the no smoking. Take care of your health better. I think I've always been a little bit health conscious in a sense of like the way I eat or things like this. Like I always watched calories and things like that. So I never really like gained weight or anything even after two kids. But maintaining your weight is very different from being healthy. And when I
mm,
talk health, I'm talking about not just physical but like mental and emotional. And I had to learn that the hard way last year.
mm. Yeah.
When I started, getting that, it's really the most horrible thing I think I've experienced, or the most challenging thing I had to fight in my life, was that having battling through like a panic attack or an anxiety disorder. So I would tell, and I think that was just an after effect on how I lived my life the last 35 years. Parang that was just an after effect. And I think the third most important part that I'd tell her is, um, be accountable for everything that happens to you. Because when you're
Mm,
accountable, not just on the job, I always felt like I felt no one accountable when I'm work. But I realized I didn't take accountability for everything that happened to me. Every every pain, every heartache. Parang and it's very different when you take accountability for everything that happens to you, because that means you also free yourself from a lot of it because you're accountable for it. So yun, just being accountable with everything that happens to you, I think is a very, very powerful thing that I wish I knew, or could have said to my to my younger
younger
self.
self. Okay. Those are three really powerful, I think, advice that you can give to yourself. The second question, the second of the last questions is, what else are you looking to accomplish over the next 10 years?
Huh, to be honest, career-wise, not much, because I really feel like I've been quite lucky already with a lot of the ventures I've done in the brand. But definitely, I think I want to go back to doing a lot more like um charitable work, like something I did even in UA&P before, even when I was younger. Like, I did a lot of like charity projects, like whether helping a public hospital, or doing just like, I remember even in high school I always did it. I don't know why. I think I was like getting rid of stuff. Like I would do garage sales, and then the profits would go to like a public hospital, like stuff like that. I think I really miss it, like not having an agenda, not
Mhm.
having like super specific, like top goals that you need to meet, but just doing something good. That's one. The other thing is, I really think I want to be like a nicer, kinder, better person. And I mean that not just for others, but to myself. Because I realized, like reflecting on my previous years, I was my biggest critic and my biggest it's like I was the one putting myself down more than other people, because I allowed it. So yon, I think that's something I really, really still wanna do.
Nice. Okay. Before I ask the final question, I just wanted to congratulate you in advance for this new venture. I'm very excited for it. And as somebody who's known you for a long time, I just want to say I'm very proud of everything that
Oh,
you've
thank
accomplished.
you.
And
A lot coming from you, because you met me, oh my gosh, 2005, because yeah, we were in college
yeah.
pa din.
So yeah. So the final question is, how do you, Crystal Gonzalez, want to be remembered?
So, main thing for me would be to be remembered by my kids as like a good mom.
Mhm.
So that's something that's super important to me, that I be a good mother to my kids. Um the other is to really be a good wife. Because it's very different to be like a good parent and a good mom, but also to be a good partner and to be a good wife is something I really want to be able to accomplish, or be remembered by. And of course, be a good daughter, like somebody that my parents and my family can be proud of. And everything I do in my life, aside from, trying to fulfill my own passions, that's just pretty much it. Like I try to make sure that what I do, that it's something that my parents or even my kids can be proud of. That's really all I think that I could ask for.
And on that note, thank you so much for agreeing to come to the show. It's great catching up with you, and
Thanks, Nick.
it's
It was
also great seeing that you have this new venture that I think speaking for the millions of people who miss Honestbee, I think we're gonna expect a lot better from Pick.A.Roo.
Thank you. Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Kendrick.
Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the show on iTunes. It will help more people discover the show. You can also share a screen cap of the show on your social media accounts. Make sure to tag me and let me know which part of the episode you like or didn't like. All feedback is certainly welcome, so feel free to reach out to me on Instagram @KendrickCo to let me know what topics you'd like to be covered next and who you want to hear or learn from in future episodes. Until next time, do the work you want to see done, because life's too short to not be creating your life's work.